Hey everyone, welcome to our first podcast, Three Devs and a Maybe. We're going to record our first ever podcast series, and we're going to try and take you through some what we think are important issues, like why using PHP, what languages are out there, what environments to use, and how to get started. This is going to be looking at people who have no experience whatsoever, so if you're already a PHP pro, this isn't the podcast for you. But if you like what you hear, carry on, and hopefully we're going to touch on some really good issues. So what I'd like to do first is introduce you to my podcast colleagues. So without further ado, my first colleague is Lewis Keynes. Lewis.
Good morning. Hello there.
So tell me about how you got into web development.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, I was already in a career previously as a golf professional. Up until about, I think it was the end of 2008, kind of that sort of time, and then I was made redundant and just decided basically to seek another sort of career direction, and took a lot of time sort of thinking about that, and then just decided, I'd love to learn how to build websites. I didn't really have a clue where to start or anything like that, so I just literally started getting on YouTube and just typing in, tutorials about how to make like HTML pages and stuff like that. And it sort of just went from there, and basically just kind of learnt more and more, got into PHP as I got further sort of along. And
how did you get into PHP? What made you think PHP is the right language? Why not .NET or something else?
I'll be completely honest, it was the first one I came across, and at the time I didn't even realise that there were others out there. So, it wasn't ever in the beginning. It was just the first choice and the first thing that I learned. But, even though I've come across these other languages now, I'm still sticking with PHP because in the beginning I found it so much easier to learn, and, it was easy to learn, and the amount of material out there to help people learn is really good. There's so much free content on the internet to help people learn. So, it got me to a place now where I'm now into my second job and doing pretty well. So, it's all been good. It's been good fun.
Absolutely. And from my experience as well, just to let listeners know, me and Lewis worked at the first same company together, and we were from very, very similar backgrounds where neither of us sort of did it at university or anything like that. We just kind of learned ourselves and just kind of put in the hard graft and taking it from there. That's Lewis Keynes, and great web developer, if I may say so myself.
Well, thank you. My mum says so.
That's for another podcast. We'll move on then. So another great guy that me and Lewis both worked with, and he was probably the first guy that really sort of taught me stuff when I was working commercially as a PHP web developer, is Mr. Fraser Hart. Fraser.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
A glowing introduction.
So, tell us about how you got into web development.
Basically kind of drifted into web development, to be honest with you. I never really knew what I wanted to do when I was younger, and I always had an interest in computers, so I got myself, kind of like drifted through clearing into a university course which was dealing with computer networks and stuff, which I had no interest in terms of the networking side of things. There was one module where we had to learn how to basically do a little bit of HTML in Notepad. I kind of warmed to that a little bit, and then on the third year of the course, it was meant to be a work placement. So I managed to get myself a job or a work placement working for a big travel company up in Manchester as basically just a web developer. So I started off earning peanuts, basically. And then at the end of the year, rather than going back to university, they said, "Oh, well, do you want to stay here and have a full-time job rather than go back to uni?" So I said, yeah, absolutely, because I was sick of being in debt and I was making money. So kind of stuck up there for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then that came to a bit of an end when I decided that I wanted to go travelling. So I went travelling for a few years and then came back and worked in pubs for a few years. So I was actually out of development for about 4 years in total, I think. And then working in pubs, it was long hours and the money wasn't too good. So I decided to get myself back into web development because I did kind of miss it as well. So I kind of sought out a junior web developer position in the town that I was working at the time. And then after a year, the company got bought out, and then there was a lot of redundancies, and I was one of the redundancies. So luckily, a girl that I was working with there was the sister of a guy that ran a web development agency. and he heard that I was looking for a job and asked me to get in touch, and that's where I got the job where I was working with you guys. And then so I was there for, I think I was there for 3 years, and then decided that I wanted to go off and see some parts of the world again. So I went off to New Zealand and got myself a job working as a web developer down in New Zealand for a year, and then came back in December and and working for that same agency again.
Happy times, good memories.
And
I know, obviously, I've spoken to you about this before, but like for the people who are listening, I mean, what made you think that the web was the way for you? Obviously, you'd done uni for a bit, and you probably could have gone down like the Java route or something else, some other kind of programming. What is it about the web that made you want to do that?
So I'm not too sure. I think it just kind of clicked with me more than anything else that I did, and it kind of came to me a lot more naturally than a lot of the other aspects. And it's something that really kind of makes me tick is actually seeing something come together on the screen. So I really like the front end side of development, and I think that's kind of where I lean to.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of exciting for me to be able to sit there and do something and see it come to form in front of my eyes.
Yeah, sure. One of the things I didn't really ask Lewis, but perhaps this is a question for both of you really is, obviously I've, since moved on from where we all work together, now kind of just doing just back-end work, which I love personally. I do miss the odd bit of JavaScript, but I think you guys are both still heavily involved in front end and back end. Is that something that you both feel like you prefer to do, or do you think you'll go into one particular side at one point?
From my point of view, I actually in the beginning and for a lot of it, I much preferred doing the back end side of things, sort of the PHP stuff rather than the front end sort of HTML, CSS. But kind of I'm in a position now where every project I do, I have to focus on both anyway. So because I start the website and build it right the way through. So I equally enjoy both. I've definitely started to enjoy front end a lot more than I used to, because I think I've just kind of sort of got more confident with it, and more confident you get, kind of the more you are able to produce better looking websites. And I quite like every time I get a blank canvas to start from now. It is quite exciting, and it's a new opportunity. So yeah, very, very equal now for me, I think, rather than one or the other.
Yeah, I think I lean very heavily towards just the front end. Again, it comes back to, I think, just the whole fact of it's nice to be able to see something come together in front of your eyes and put these cool little interactions and stuff, like when you go on a website, you say, oh, this is cool, like the way the background moves, or the way this toggle works, and it's just kind of fun, kind of not even emulating that, kind of like thinking that looks cool, I want to build that kind of thing, and it lets me do that. Whereas I guess the back end to me is a bit more it's a bit more hidden. It's a little bit less, I don't want to say a little bit less obvious. It's kind of, it's not immediately apparent what you're building until further down the line, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. I guess
you can't really demonstrate it to anyone that doesn't really know code, can you? So they don't really understand. All they see is the front end side of things.
Yeah, and I guess when you're developing as well, like you get all these kind of like milestones that you hit. And I guess the milestones when you're building front end stuff come a lot more often, because you can see, oh, this does this now, and then this does this now. Whereas I guess the back end is more of like a marathon rather than a load of little sprints. I guess I kind of
definitely.
One thing
which I'm pretty sure it didn't.
One thing I should probably say to anyone listening, because like I say, we're really looking at this podcast reaching people who haven't done any development before, or perhaps just real beginner level. So any terminology that's used that doesn't make any sense, don't be intimidated by it, because we're going to go through all this in the series. But basically, front end and back end. The front end is just all the stuff that makes the site look good, all the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript, all that user experience that the user directly sees. Whereas the back end is the programming, the engine that makes it work, anything that needs to, use a database, retrieve information, all that kind of stuff. So that's all that is. But I think, I don't know if you guys would agree, but probably like maybe 10 years ago, HTML and CSS was probably something you think that, like a 12-year-old kid could do. Whereas these days, it's just not the case. And you can literally, and that's why companies do have dedicated front-end developers, because it's such a complex area in itself. If you want to be if you want to be a brilliant front-end developer, it's probably not really possible to be both if you really want to be the top of your game, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I love how you put the kind of disclaimer about all the jargon and stuff. He's the most intelligent person on the planet.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we are missing one last developer who goes by Ed, the player man. And basically, I should just mention about the title, Free Devs and a Maybe. Basically, Free Devs is me, Lewis, and Fraser, and Ed is the maybe just because he's such a player. And it's impossible to know where he'll ever be at any one time. He's going to be with some new lady.
Yes, that is the truth.
He's just a machine, an animal. But anyway, so an introduction to Edman. Again, common theme here, but we all worked at the same company at one point. We don't anymore for reasons that we won't go into. But Edman is probably a genius, great developer, and I think he's taught us all quite a lot. Certainly, well, we've probably all taught each other something at some point or another, but Edman, give us an introduction to your life.
Thank you for that. I'm Ed. I've been deving, that sounds nice, but I've been a software developer, into software development probably for about 10 years, I think. I started off in college where I did Pascal and Delphi, which were interesting. And on the side...
Mm-hmm.
We lost Ed.
That is awkward.
Right, you cut this bit out.
Oh, about them Yankees.
Is he gone?
I think so.
That is not the best possible start ever. Oh, well...
Ed, where's he gone?
He's lost connection.
Oh, hang on, he's coming back.
Is he back?
I'm seeing the white dots where he's trying to come back.
Absolutely seamless.
I wonder if he realises he's cut out or whether he's just going to catch the end of what he's saying.
But he's got a woman in his room.
Such a player that he's doing this from like an aeroplane somewhere.
Oh,
with heavy women on his arm blocking his signal.
No doubt.
This is just a bit where you can literally just sort of highlight this part of the audio and just delete it, can't you?
This material's gold. This is what the listeners want.
I think it's going all right so far.
Yes.
Anybody know any jokes?
Not really. Lewis, you're the joke guy.
I know, I can't think of one off the top of my head. We're not. This bit's not recorded though, is it?
It is recording, but I can get rid of it.
So, I'll have to think of a joke. You know, if I'm going to put a joke out there, it's got to be good. And I only know rubbish ones, so.
Literally, what is it about? As soon as you hit record, like the nerves kick in.
Yes.
It's when your mind goes blank, it's a bit scary.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard a noise.
Oh.
Is that Ed? Yeah, Ed's.
He's online. Oh, I didn't.
Oh, look at his picture as well. Has he got sideburns?
I didn't know you were in Home Alone, Ed.
And it looks like he's got like one of those stringy earrings, the way the connection thing's coming.
He's having problems, isn't he?
He looks about 12. Ed.
Ed?
Ed.
I can just picture him throwing stuff around his room at the moment.
Well, he probably doesn't realise.
It's still going.
Still talking.
I don't know if our intro is going to last a full hour, though. I think we're on 14 minutes a minute, and there's probably about 4 minutes of stuff I need to cut out where Ed's not actually...
You know, something I thought actually we should have added there is the kind of, like the first places that we came across to learn stuff.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned like the New Boston and PHP Academy and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were both, you know, pretty much, they were the two people that I used to learn, so...
Yeah. We'll do that. As soon as we get Ed, the player man, back on.
He comes back. All's forgiven, Ed, come on. It was just a joke, you're not a maybe.
Ed? Ed?
He's just showing us offline on mine.
Is he?
Yeah.
He shows online on...
Online.
That's flaky, aren't I?
What the hell was that?
Whoa, what? What
This
went
is
on?
what happens,
And
right?
that's how I got into web development.
That's a great story, yeah.
Thanks, and I feel like I'm really glad I've now got that off my chest.
God, I learned something there. I really did.
So, how far into that did you get? Because I got just talking to I started looking at Skype, and I was like, actually, I'm talking to myself now.
Okay, let's. I'll cut out a load of stuff and keep in the good bits. But yeah. So Ed, I think
again.
I think we got the bit where you said you've been to college and you learned Pascal.
Wow, that was pretty close up there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was learning Pascal, Delphi, and stuff like that. But on the side, I really was interested in the web stuff and like how it was working and stuff, and like sort of Facebook and MySpace and everything. And I started just doing static stuff with HTML and CSS and a bit of JavaScript, just copy and pasting stuff really, and learning from examples on forums. And then I decided to do a little bit of a side project, which was making an e-commerce system, which was a bit ambitious. But in the end, I was like, which language do I use? I didn't really know because, I mean, Pascal and Delphi definitely weren't the languages that I was going to use for that. So I looked into some languages like Java and stuff. And I think I did a bit of, I actually looked into Ruby as well, which was weird. But then I did stay on PHP. I found PHP and I just loved it. I thought the barrier to entry was really nice in low, you could just get on with it. I think I saw a shopping cart example on a forum, and it was just a one-page thing, and I could understand it, which was nice, because when you understand something, at least then you think, oh yeah, I can work with that. And then, then I built this e-commerce system really in PHP, and it was nice. I mean, looking back at it, it's pretty crappy, but it was nice to be able to think you can actually do that, and you can actually release that online, and anyone in the world can see it and use it and stuff like that. It felt pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then I went off to uni and went into Java and C# and all that funky stuff. But I always stuck with PHP as like a little, just my side playing around with things, because I always liked just making little projects on the web and stuff. And PHP was just such a nice language to be able to pick up, do some stuff, and go back to those other languages. And I actually did my project dissertation on comparing PHP with a couple of languages as well, in the website application like domain, which was quite cool. And still actually then enjoyed PHP the most.
Yeah. What were the other languages? What were the other languages?
I did Ruby and a bit of Python as well.
Okay.
And they all got their merits, and PHP definitely is not a great language in itself, but it's just the fact that you can just get stuff for the web done.
I was going to say, there's a lot more setup process, right, if you're using Python or Ruby.
Yes, yeah. PHP is great because it has web lined at first. I mean, that's what PHP was made for, personal homepage. It was made for the web to get stuff done on the web, which is great.
Yeah.
As web developers, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
But then I went for a web job after uni, after graduating there, and that's when I met all you guys. Did that for a year and a half-ish. Again, working in PHP and a bit of classic ASP on the side.
Language.
And then I did some freelance stuff. And then I decided when I was in the job to do a master's, and I was like, well, I might do some freelance stuff beforehand. Then I go, and now I'm doing a master's in computing because I just love education that much. And that's back to the Java game and stuff, and everyone laughing at PHP, which is always fun.
Yeah, sure. But I think, I don't want to tell people what to do, but for me, it's a no-brainer that if you want to get into web, that PHP is the language to use. It's, it's going to be there for a long time. It is easy. Well, not easy to use. If you're starting, it takes a little bit of learning, but compared to other languages, it's the way to go.
And the resources out there are endless and free as well.
Yeah, sorry, that was one thing that we said we were going to talk about, actually, was like some of the resources that people use when they started out. So I think, Lewis, you had a few like good ones.
The three main ones, I suppose. When I first started learning, I did it exclusively sort of through YouTube, just literally typing in HTML, CSS, PHP, etc. For starting out with HTML and CSS, I came across a lady whose Twitter handle, I think it's To Create a Website, and she sort of really, really well outlined sort of the basics of CSS and got me started well there. And then as I went on, my main PHP learning was through the New Boston. There's loads of tutorials by the New Boston on YouTube, and the guy Barky that does it is just brilliant. He's really funny and engaging, and sometimes, you switch onto a tutorial when you're bored within 3 seconds and you turn it off. With the new Boston tutorials, they're quite entertaining as well. So I found that was perfect for learning. And then PHP Academy, which the guy Alex on there explains things really, really clearly and breaks it all down. And yeah, through those sort of 3, I was able to learn everything I needed to learn from scratch to actually get a job. So, I can't recommend those guys enough, to be honest.
Yeah. What about you two, Fraser, Ed?
I speak wonders of W3 schools, and every time I mention that to anyone, I was like, W3 schools is just the worst thing on the planet. Like, I wrote a blog post about how to get into web development, and then and I mentioned on there that I use W3 schools quite heavily, and then the backlash was just insane. It made me hate every single person on the internet and I do agree with what they're saying. Like, some of the information is not 100% great, and it's not the most up-to-date resource in the world. But as far as I know, there's not another centralised resource out there that you can go to and you can pick up every bit of the basics that you need to. And so that was a big place for me. And then going forward, as I got more and more into it and stuff, basically Stack Overflow is just the holy grail.
Yeah.
It's just the most fantastic place on the internet to learn web development, I think.
Yeah.
And I suppose not in terms of if you wanted to do courses or anything, but if there's a specific thing you want to know about, if someone's already asked it, or if no one's already asked the question that you want to know the answer to, you can ask the question, and then you'll have an answer within 2 minutes.
Yeah, I joined Stack Overflow this week, and I posted 2 questions on there, and within literally 3 minutes of both of those, I had a response from someone. I thought that was amazing.
It's unbelievable. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess one thing we should mention, because certainly I know someone who Ed knows, she had an experience with Stack Overflow this week where I think it was like the first thing she put on, and literally she put a question, and within like 10 minutes, like you were saying, Fraser, like she had just basically the whole internet community just slagging her off left, right, and centre.
Oh yeah,
definite
disclaimer needed with Stack Overflow, isn't there? Yeah.
And the only thing I would say is like
Stack Overflow, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, this is the thing, but I say to anyone who's like starting off, like, Stack Overflow is the holy grail. It's brilliant, but just be warned that the open source community and a lot of developers out there, they're brilliant. They'll give you all the help they possibly can, but there is quite a few out there that if they think your question's stupid, which it won't be, there's no such thing as a stupid question if you're starting out, but they will sometimes go to town. So just be warned.
Well, they're hiding behind a keyboard, so they'll
exactly
say anything they want.
And it's probably an 8-year-old kid in America who's already got 3 degrees. But just don't take it personally and just move on. And like, certainly when you're learning, things that probably should take 5 minutes, take you 4 hours. But at least once you've learnt it, and you move on, and that's how it goes. But yeah, Stack Overflow is awesome. What about you, Ed? Man, I guess you learned a bit at college, or did you?
Yeah, so I mean that's quite having that behind me definitely is a bonus. But online resources, I mean, just googling stuff is amazing. And then, like as Fraser said, Stack Overflow will come up, but for actual course, I mean, Tutes Plus, I can't recommend that enough. I really can't.
Yeah,
the content on there is just. I mean, Jeffrey Way is such a good teacher of, what you need for web development that it is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think Lewis, you've got an account, haven't you, with Tutes Plus as well?
I have actually. Yeah. I mean,
and it's
I should have dropped them in from the beginning. Actually, I've also used them right the way along, and to be honest, they're pretty much my main source now. Everything I learned, I kind of go through Tutes.
Yeah.
They're so up to date, and they've got all the series. I think they do have a starting PHP podcast, video series.
They got basics for everything.
Yeah, and then you go up, progress up, and everything, and they're just really, really well written, really thoroughly thought out, and I can't recommend them enough.
I'd have to back up Fraser though.
The W3 schools.
Yeah, I mean,
I know. I don't
understand like how it gets.
Slated.
And then there's like W3 Fools website, right?
That's all Irish, isn't it?
Yeah, but I genuinely think if you're just starting out, it's a great source of information.
I mean, even for Classic ASP now, it's a good source. I mean, that's how I learned it when I was back in the web. That job is.
Yeah, well, I learned HTML and CSS through there, and it's been absolutely invaluable. But apparently, there's a handful of people on the internet that don't like it, so I'm an idiot.
How how up to date is it? I don't know. I haven't been on it. How is it? Does it have CSS 3 and 5?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
I don't know why it got so much hate then. Learn HTML5.
Apparently, there's on that W3Force website. I think they point out a number of inaccuracies and stuff. But it's like there's thousands and thousands of pages. There's going to be inaccuracies. Like there's spelling mistakes in every book that's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess that's the other one. I mean, for me, when I was learning PHP, I learned from a book, and I did find that quite helpful because it's structured and it takes you from what it thinks you should learn first right through to the more advanced stuff. Whereas if you're just learning yourself with the web, unless you're following a series, if you're just randomly trying to work out how to do things, you can learn in an unstructured way, and you might be doing things that you get it done, but you don't actually understand how it's working.
Oh, can I actually? There's one other thing I would mind saying.
Go for it.
Mozilla Developer Network.
Yeah,
that's another good one, and that one actually has. It's quite nice. It's a wikified version of W3 Schools, kind of, where the content is always updated, and you can update it yourself. And that I found really good for HTML stuff.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I've never come across that. I'll check that out.
Are you guys picking up any audio problems here? It keeps cutting out on me a little bit.
No.
I felt you cut out a minute ago, Lewis, because it seemed like you were mid-sentence and you just stopped, and I was like...
Yeah, you and Ed both, like, in the middle of when you've been speaking, the sound has cut off slightly, so hopefully it'll be all right.
Ooh.
Are we going to have show notes to...
I was thinking about this. We are supposed to provide show notes, yes.
Yes, so if I copy these all into the thing, at least then we've got...
Oh, that would be awesome, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, what's that site that you talk about, Fraser? That like mums.com or something.
Oh yeah.
Mums.com.
What's that like thing you get like
the classic ASP?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's some look.
That definitely needs to go in the show notes.
Is it Mum's Choice? No. Sorry, that's getting out.
Oh, you there?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, back now. Yeah, it went completely silent. Couldn't hear anyone.
Really?
Yeah.
This is going to be a great podcast, I can tell.
we won't know until
teething
we hear it.
Just teething problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is the nature of the internet, isn't it? You know, it doesn't. You know, it
doesn't do what you want it to do.
it can be frustrating at times.
It's IE. Oh man.
Yeah. Rule number 1: IE is rubbish.
Yeah, I think
it's not the only browser out there.
Let's leave the listeners out of the IE stuff for a little while, so they can
learn that.
I can't find this website at all.
Mums.
That's going to bring you better dodgy results.
I just googled Mum Classic ASP. Probably not the best thing to Google. But how about you, Mickey? How did you get into it? I don't think we've actually asked you.
Well, yeah. So I kind of like learn with like the basic build a HTML CSS website, and from there on I was kind of hooked. I really loved the web. It was just like a hobby for me. Really enjoyed it. And then the next step, I spoke to a guy who was like, who just finished his computer science degree, and he was like, yeah, you should learn PHP, and he gave me his book. And it was a pretty daunting book at first. I was thinking, this looks pretty scary, but I kind of just kept working through, and it took me ages to get through that book. Looking at it now, you'd think, oh, that's easy, but it was just at the time, like, if you've never seen a programming language before, you just think, what the hell, what's going on? But I just kind of persevered through that.
It was your first language as well.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I'd never really touched anything else. I don't think about that point they even played with JavaScript or anything like that. So I was completely unfamiliar with any kind of if syntax, if else statements, all that kind of stuff. Arrays, just nothing. I had no knowledge, but just kind of cracked on with that. Kept on going, and then as you know, like my background. I did a history and politics degree and kind of ended up in car rental, worked my way up, and I was doing okay for myself, but I just hated what I did. And for me, it was like a no-brainer. I wanted to work in web development, but I had to get in as a junior, as you guys know, and I had to literally take a massive pay cut to do it. But I'd encourage anyone who out there is in the same situation where they hate their job. Just life is way too short to be miserable. Just if web development is what you want to do, then there's lots of agencies who will take on people who've learned it in their spare time. Don't think that you have to have all these amazing qualifications. If you can prove you know what you're doing, then, you will get a job at an agency and you can work your way up from there. And certainly if you're committed to learning, and you'll do well, and you'll move up and the pay will get better and all the rest. But I guess starting out, it's tough as a junior web developer.
Absolutely. I'd like to reiterate that as well, because I think there's, from seeing what people post on things like Reddit and the various forums and stuff, people seem very intimidated by web development. And even to me, like, I've been in it for 6 or 7 years, and it's still quite an intimidating thing to me. But you get a lot of people that that don't think they're good enough to start applying for jobs. But there's such a demand out there for web developers.
Yeah.
And if you've got HTML and CSS, or even if you know the basics and you can show are willing to learn, then I think you're absolutely in a position where you can put yourself out there to agencies to try and get yourself a junior role, because agencies don't want to task their main or their senior developers on the little text changes that every agency has to do, handfuls of those every single day. So a lot of them are going to be looking for junior developers that they can then mould into exactly the kind of developers they want at a relatively low cost to themselves.
That's exactly it.
So I think as soon as you've got the basics and you can show that you've got a dedication to learn and you've got an interest in it, then absolutely put yourself out there, start throwing CVs out and contacting agencies. And I'd be very surprised if you found that you couldn't get a job.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the other thing is, for anyone who's like, maybe they're in a well-paid job and they're thinking, well, I can't really afford to do this. Like, I challenge them, push them to do it, because, okay, you're taking a pay cut, but you're starting a new career. And the thing is, all that learning you've done in your spare time is going to be so insignificant to what you're going to learn when you're working with other web developers. The amount of stuff you will learn from other people is insane, and you'll learn quick as well. I mean, like, Fraser, I remember, like, showing you that first site I did, and I mean, like, everything was absolutely positioned, and, you just came in and just basically deleted it and started again. But, like, that was, I from that point on, like, everything I did was, like, floated, positioned, and, and that learning experience I had was, that first 6 months was huge. Like, felt like I'd been hit by a train or something.
Yeah.
It was just, the amount of knowledge I got out of that was insane. And the thing is, you can work your way up really quick in web. If you keep learning, spend all your time learning, you can do really well and work your way up. So that is my story in a nutshell, I guess. So have we still got Lewis? We've got sound problems.
Yes?
Yeah, I'm here, but again, I lost you.
Lost sound.
I didn't want to say anything because in case you guys you could hear each other, but I lost you for about 15 seconds there. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah.
I'm here. It just keeps cutting.
That's really weird. Go.
And now the final record might be all right. Never know.
I'm just playing around on W3 Schools, and it's not bad at all.
Yeah, I don't know if
it's not bad. Thank you.
It's not bad at all. I don't know why people hate it. It's got everything.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can go there and you everything you need.
I don't hate it. I've certainly used it a lot, but I went down the YouTube road because I like to watch videos and actually hear people talking about it.
Yeah,
that was my. Everyone has a different learning style, I suppose, don't they? And that's definitely mine.
Yeah,
to watch videos and hear people speaking rather than reading. Reading's brilliant, I find, for reference and stuff.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point, actually.
For me personally, learning something from scratch, definitely watching videos and listening to help, to people speak, and then also you can obviously see what they're doing on the screen and follow in real time and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I'm to an extent, I'm the same way. Like, I definitely learn more if I have someone explaining it to me, because if it's just in a book, it doesn't really mean a lot to you. You're kind of following it's like you're like baking a cake or something, reading it from the recipe. Okay, you're doing it, but if you've got someone there teaching you, showing you how to do it, it just sinks in more, I think. So, and probably when I started out, there wasn't the resources that there is now. Like you say, on YouTube and everything. That's just it's just loads, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that's that wraps up for introductions, or is there anything like you guys think we should discuss?
No, I think that's it for me.
Yeah. Okay, no worries.
Did you want to go down anything on your list, Mike? Or
yeah, that sounds good. I think if everyone's happy with like personal introductions and stuff, and
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It was personal enough for me.
Yeah, I just wrap up that intro just by saying I think the key thing is, look, just don't be intimidated by anything. Just get in there, do it, get stuck, spend 5 hours trying to do something that'll take you 3 minutes. That should take you 3 minutes, and just learn. Just keep learning, keep pushing yourself, and you'll get there. So
it's a fun learning curve as well. It really is.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
Every new thing you learn is exciting.
Yeah.
And even now, web development. It definitely. I don't think you ever stop learning, do you? It's never something that you're going to get bored of.
Exactly. That is
as long as you enjoy it, obviously.
Yeah, it's a great thing about our industry that how many jobs have we all had where you're not learning stuff. In this industry, you will always be learning stuff because the clients' requirements always change. The internet's always changing. It's just a great job to keep, if you want to keep expanding your skill set, and ultimately, perhaps not everyone's money minded, but if you want to earn more money, the more stuff the more money you can make. So
yeah,
+1 on that.
+1. You're all about the money, Ed, the player man.
Oh no, cha-ching.
Cool. So introduction's done. So I think.
What is PHP?
What is PHP? Who wants to field this one?
Ed.
Thanks, man.
Put those girls down. Go on.
Can I actually, something that I think we missed out, which I think might need a bit of clarifying as well.
Yeah, go for it.
A lot of people think that web development is web design, don't they?
Yes.
And it's very, very when there's people say like, "What do you do?" I'm a web developer. Yeah. They think I mean design.
Yeah.
Rather than the actual code. So this is purely about the coding side of things, not actual using Photoshop designing websites or anything like that.
Yeah, we probably should have mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast. Oops.
Sorry to anyone that's now leaving us.
No, that is a really important point to make, actually, because when I was applying for jobs, I kept applying for web designer jobs. I was thinking, why am I not getting anywhere? I didn't have a portfolio or anything like that. But you're absolutely right. We're talking web development, and So Ed Man.
Yo.
What is PHP?
So PHP, well, it originally stood for personal homepage because it originally was just a simple couple of Perl scripts, which Rasmus, I can't remember his surname, he decided that he wanted to make some things for the web, and it was just a couple of scripts that he used to make it easier.
Hang on. So you didn't make PHP?
I almost did. Almost.
Right. Cool. Okay.
But it was 95 and I was 6 and, I was a little bit,
well, no one's judging.
Preoccupied with
You're only
Harry.
1995.
It's disgusting.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
But yes, now because now it's a professional language, obviously, they don't want to put personal homepage. It's now called PHP Hypertext Preprocessor, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a recursive acronym on itself.
Yeah.
I don't know why people need to know this, but it's just always nice for trivia.
Yeah.
But yeah, so PHP, it's a dynamic language, which means you do not have to write any types, which is great. And again, that will probably be confusing. Meaning you don't have to say, has to be a string. You can just say this is a variable, this is a placeholder, just chuck, anything in there you want. And also it's weakly type, meaning you can chuck things around saying, where I need a double, I can actually use an int in place and stuff like that, and it will convert the types for you. It's an interpreted language, which is lovely. For starting off, interpreted languages are great because an interpreted language, you write it, you can literally have the browser open or a command line open on one side of the window. You've got your text editor in one and the other, and you just save the file and you run the file. And you don't have to worry about compiling all the things and everything like that, which can take time, be confusing. You can just see the results immediately. And that's another thing with PHP. Because PHP is so well integrated into things like Apache for its mod PHP and stuff, you can easily get a web server set up locally just using MAMP or WAMP or something like that. That allows you then to just have that quick feedback loop, which is what you really want when you're learning. You don't want to have to go through all these steps like Java and everything where you have to have an IDE, which is like, it's just a big text editor that's got all these complicated things that you don't want and you don't need for simple ideas. And another thing with PHP is PHP scripts, you just have to start off with a lower brackets, a question mark, and then PHP, and then you just can write all the scripts you want in there. You don't have to worry about all this boilerplate or anything like that. You can just start coding, which is great.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess one thing I just add to that, just to explain really what PHP is, that, you know, if people don't really know much about computers, how they work and stuff, you know, ultimately the way the machine code works is just, you know, lots of zeros and ones. It works out what it's trying to do for you. But PHP, like most languages, it enables the user to write something in that's understandable to a human, that then we can pass it to the computer, and then it interprets it and turns out something that's nice and pretty on your screen. But that's basically what it does. I think you've answered about 10 of my questions in one there, so just used up about half an hour's material, but it was a good, solid answer.
It was.
I guess one of the things we kind of covered, but it'd be good to go through again. I'll field this one to Lewis. Like, you know, why do we need PHP? Why can't we just stick at HTML and CSS?
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, because I mean, you could do that, but you'd end up making a website that has about 50 or 100 pages in it. And the beauty of using PHP is that you can, like Ed said, it's a dynamic language. So, you know, with like maybe 3 files, you can make a really big website. You know, it's once you've learned the basics of HTML and CSS, it's the next logical step to make, to be able to work faster, I think.
Definitely. Sounds good.
Does that kind of answer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the point I was trying to get to, I guess, is that, if you're building a website, anything like e-commerce or anything like that, or anything where you need to start, a members club or something like that, you need PHP.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And a database, yeah. So, I think that covers that one. I think I'll put here, it might be a little bit too much for like the first week, but just to explain, like for anyone who's thinking, oh, my friends do Java. What's the difference between Java and PHP? Well, basically, Java isn't primarily a web language. It could be used for the web. There's tools out there to allow you to do that. But the difference is, like Ed was saying, it's an interpreted language. So when you execute a page, it runs through that script, interprets it, and puts it onto your page. Whereas things like Java, you're actually programming. And when you sort of finish or got to the point where your program should be, you actually do what they call compiling, and that actually your code is then interpreted at that point, and it's all stored and saved. So then when the person runs the program, it's all good to go. I mean, that's a really horrific explanation of what a compiled language is. Edman, would you like to do that in English? That'd be better.
No, that's fine. No, it's just that intermediate step, that you have to write the code, compile it, then run it. With an interpreted language, you just write the code and run it. Yeah. And that just makes the feedback look so much nicer when you're first starting off, because you just want simple things. You just want it to be simple. I mean, there's a lot of good things about having a compiler, and there definitely is. But for this type of thing, especially in the web game, with small sites and just starting off, you do just want to have that quick feedback loop of being able to be like, oh, yeah, that's what went wrong and stuff like that in the browser.
Yeah, absolutely. Fraser.
Yes.
Question for you. I was just thinking maybe, we touched on like how PHP is used if we have like a members club or something like e-commerce, that kind of stuff. Perhaps it'd be good just to explain like how PHP does that and how it interacts with a database and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically on your web server you'll have an SQL server, or you'll have a database server, and basically you use PHP to interact with the database server. So most of your interactions in terms of your members club are going to be with the database. So in terms of validating, you'll store your users and you pass all your hash passwords in your database. So it's a case of taking the user input and then kind of using that to interact with the server and with the database to get, basically to pull results back and to get the information that you want, that you can then mold that information into what you want to display on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I guess we should stress here that, okay, we're now going on to another thing, talking about databases, which, potentially, there's experts out there whose just job is just database management or whatever. But in this context, for the web, we should stress that you can learn this really quickly. The most common database that people use, MySQL database, is completely free to use, and it's quite easy. All you're doing is storing lots of values in a table, and you can basically say what type of the value is. So if it's going to be a number, you can set it as a number field, or if it's a text field, all that kind of stuff. It's really basic, so don't anyone be intimidated by that.
It's like Microsoft Excel for websites, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good example. So, but that brings us on to another point is, there's probably a lot of people out there asking, what's this going to cost them to start learning web development? So I think the important thing to stress is if you want to get into web development, you don't have to spend any money at all. I mean, really embarrassing, but like when I started out, like I didn't know about local environments, and I think I spent something like £200 on web hosting for like 2 years or something, which is absolutely horrendous. But
yeah, I've done that.
But perhaps we could, just really to stress, you don't need to spend any money at all. Perhaps you guys could talk about MAMP and WAMP and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to.
I don't mind fielding in here. Basically, I use MAMP on my Mac, and the reason I use that is because I followed a tutorial to try and set Apache up on my Mac, and it didn't work. So someone told me about MAMP, and I downloaded MAMP, and I've been using it ever since. And it's absolutely perfect for me. It's really easy to set up. There's a free version and a paid version. I'm on the paid version now, but the free version, if you're starting out, will be absolutely more than you need anyway. So you just go to, I think it's on, is it mamp.com? Head over there, download the MAMP software. Initially, you install it, and then you tell it where to point to for your home directory. So if you want to start developing in say documents / my website, if you want to start developing there, you just point MAMP to there, and then you go to localhost :8888 in your web browser, and then that will show you the results of your website, and that's literally all you need to do.
Awesome. Just to confirm, that's mamp.info if anyone wants to use that. I don't know about WAMP, I'm just checking that out. But Ed, you've got experience with, you've got a tutorial on setting up a local environment on your Mac.
Yeah, wow, a lot of good feedback from that, from a certain person.
Yeah.
What's your website, Ed? Just so people can go and see it?
Edman.com. It's a legendary site.
I'll put all our websites on the show notes for people.
But yeah, I can't. MAMP and WAMP are great. WAMP, the difference between WAMP and MAMP is just because of the operating system. So and there's also LAMP. So you've got MAMP, which is Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP or Perl. You've got WAMP, which is just Windows, Apache, MySQL, PHP or Perl. And then you've also got LAMP, which is Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP or Perl. They are absolutely great to start off locally. You can show your friends then, and when you feel great, good enough, confident enough to put it online, you can get some cheap hosting anywhere, really. I mean, there's so many good hosts that you can just FTP or SSH on, upload it all in there. And then you can eventually go down the route of maybe setting up your own server and stuff like that. But then that comes later. You can just use these web hosts that are pretty cheap and pretty reliable, actually.
Absolutely, yeah. But you shouldn't be forking out any money when you're starting out.
No point at all.
Yeah. I guess another thing that you touched upon before, Ed, and I guess everyone's got their own opinions on this, and again, this is something where you could incur costs, but editors' choices.
Editors, are we really going to go down that religious debate?
I think we should, because most people probably don't have anything and have no idea what to use.
We all use the same thing, don't we?
We do now, I think. To be fair, I have to use Dreamweaver at work. Just don't get me started. But
in fairness, I was using Dreamweaver until about 2 years ago. So I've had about 6 years on Dreamweaver, but I've changed over to Sublime recently, and I'd say recently, in the last couple of years, and it's just perfect.
Mm.
But you used to pay for it.
Yeah. The thing with Dreamweaver is you do have to pay for it, obviously, if you want to get it legally. And it's not cheap. And that's the problem. And it just gives you so much stuff that you don't need. And if you're starting out as a junior developer, you want to be learning how to do clean, nice code. I don't think Dreamweaver is the way forward if that's what you want. I think Sublime Text is great, but I guess the other options out there are Notepad++, which is fine, does the job, right? But
I think it's important to learn how to code these things from scratch, isn't it? Rather than using like a WYSIWYG editor. to make a website page.
In its defence, though, when I first started out, when I was using Dreamweaver, I thought it was really good in terms of you could draw something. I know it puts out horrible code, but you can get a feel for what's actually going on behind the scenes and stuff, because kind of like you can draw what you want in the WYSIWYG, and then it will show you the code immediately, and it will give you a good starting point in terms of that. But obviously, it's a very, very kind of basic rudimentary thing to be doing, but it's a good thing to do if you've got no idea as to what to start on and what have you. So I'd recommend staying away from it, but I did get a lot of benefit for it in my early days. But yeah, it's straight just Sublime Text these days.
I find that the autocomplete in Dreamweaver is really good as well. I mean, that's what you get in a lot of the IDEs, which is great for learning things because it allows you just to understand what a function does by typing a couple of characters. Yeah. I wouldn't really class that as cheating either, because I think you do have a lot of weird functions in PHP and all these languages, to be fair. And it's kind of nice just to have that support to be like, oh yeah, I know what that function is, just hitting enter, and you've got the function up with the definition, and you can just work out what the parameters are. The whole needle and haystack thing is definitely one of those.
That's true. Yeah, it's a really good point actually. About the thing that does...
that was pretty fantastic, because you could have, for instance, if you were using a framework, it would scan all the whole framework files. It's a hugely bloated bit of software, but it's really good for what it does. And then so it'll scan all your files, and then it'll pick up all the functions. So if you decide that you want to use a function which is in a file in your models directory, and you can't remember what parameters you need to pass to, it'll give you basically the placeholder for how you need to call that with the parameters already filled in. So it saves a lot of kind of switching back and forth between different files to see what you need to be doing. But like I say, it's a very bloated bit of software, and I got rid of it just because it was really stolen on my machine. But
yeah, I guess the other thing to mention is the error indications, which you don't get in Sublime.
Yes.
Other than maybe colouring, but in Dreamweaver, if you're learning, I guess that is a really useful tool. Especially like when we were coding Classic ASP, it's just it's a harder language to spot where you've made a mistake. I think sometimes Classic ASP. So if you've got Dreamweaver that's giving you a nudge and saying, "Look, this line," that is quite helpful.
Yeah.
So I think the next thing I've got on was and again we've kind of covered it a little bit, but talking about prerequisites, like what you should know before getting into web development.
How to turn a computer on.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it, to be honest. I mean,
you're on and have seen a website before, so you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then get cracking with HTML, and then get a job.
It is really that simple, pretty much.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not a question, really, is it?
No, it only costs you your time.
It's a great hobby to have in that respect, isn't it? You can spend hours, and it's not going to cost you a penny.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And I guess for me, certainly I don't know if I want to be in web in 10 years' time, but certainly I don't regret anything, because if you learn a web language, if you learn PHP, puts you in such good stead to then learn other languages. Like I'm learning Java at the moment. It's, if you understand the basics of the language, then you will be able to do other languages. And certainly for me and Lewis, when we started our last company, I think pretty much our first websites, we were told to build a site in Classic ASP, and we'd never touched the language in our lives. And I'm not defending the language; it's horrible. But having that PHP knowledge meant that at least we could try and do it. We might have produced an absolute mess, but at least we understand the basics. If you understand if statements, while loops, for loops, they exist in pretty much every language, if not all languages, right? So the opportunities, once you've been a web developer for a while, there's nothing to stop you branching into something else. And who knows where the web's going to be in 10 years' time? Maybe who knows where apps are going to be in 10 years' time?
That's a good one.
Certainly, if you've learned PHP, if you decide you want to become an app developer, it's not going to be a huge leap, I guess. Any thoughts or comments?
I've never designed or developed an app, so I
started one.
That's still a few years off for me. It's something that definitely I want to go into one day, but I'm still very much focused on PHP and websites and stuff at the moment.
Yeah. I thought you started one, Fraser.
Yeah, I was working on one just through PhoneGap, but it wasn't using the conventional app development. I don't even know what the term.
I guess that obviously apps are beyond the scope of this podcast, but I guess the point I'm making is that, if you've learnt PHP and you've played around with languages, and you can quite happily hop along to another one. The differences are usually minimal. So it's a great starting job to get into if, IT is, or computer science is what you want to do as a career, I guess.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that we've not covered, like today, is like as part of an introduction to web development?
Just install WAMP or MAMP and have a little play. Go on YouTube.
You could be like, by next week, you people have to have done this, or we will come to your house.
Yeah. What about the importance, like everyone's talking about HTML5 at the moment. How important do you think it is for people now who are just starting to learn to make sure that they're learning HTML5? I mean, the differences are subtle, I guess, at the beginning.
Yeah, it's so tough, isn't it? Because you have the whole XHTML thing and so strict. I mean, to be honest, I think you should either learn 5 or 4 or maybe XHTML. I mean, they're all really, you can go between the lot.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice. And
I don't think it's worth confusing it by putting a version or a type on it, because I think it's probably worth just saying learn HTML, because HTML is pretty transferable. All you're really doing is adding a / if you're using XHTML on the end of all your standard stuff, and there's not a huge amount of other differences that you need to be concerned about, I don't think.
I think you're right.
And HTML5 is just another bucket load of features that you can use, as opposed to a completely separate thing in itself. So I think it's probably worth to saying, learn HTML.
Yeah. I guess if you're starting as well, this is probably not good advice actually, but just literally, don't even worry about any of that stuff. Literally just get your basic tags, HTML, close off your HTML, and just echo out some text to start off with, just see how it works, and then, just get your hello world script out there, and then just start playing with it, and then start thinking about, the intricacies of what version of HTML to use, the different, tags you can use, all that kind of stuff. But again, it's another thing that probably people hear and they think, whoa, I've just learned HTML4, what's going on? Am I supposed to be learning HTML5? But I guess the important thing is, don't worry about it, just do whatever.
I've just got one thing to say actually. I've just found online on Choose Plus, they're 30 days to learn HTML and CSS, and it's free.
That is awesome.
So put that in the show notes. That would be a very good place to go.
The best thing about that,
so it's going to be good.
Well, the best thing is about that is in the introduction video. Obviously, Jeffrey Ray. The more you get into web development, you'll come across his name because he's all over sort of Twitter and tutorials and stuff like that. And in the very first video here, he's literally like, once upon a time, I'd never ever made a website before, and makes you realise that everyone was at that stage once, and he literally goes right from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really good course, that one, Ed.
I'd definitely say just go through this course. I'm just looking through it. It's got everything you need to start. It really does.
Yeah.
And then get a job.
And then get really rich.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. I might as well put it out there. But if anyone does learn that 30 days to HTML and CSS, get in touch with me, because we're looking to hire some juniors. So if anybody who is listening to this is looking for a job, get through that, prove that you can do it, and then get in touch with me through my website, and then we'll see what we can do.
See, that is a great podcast. We give advice and we offer jobs. That is
absolutely.
Just the whole pizza.
Yeah. But I guess a couple of things to kind of close up with is, I'll go through what the other episode we're going to cover are, so people got a heads up. But also, just literally, if it's what you want to do, again, stress. Don't get intimidated. Don't be intimidated, and just get yourself really engulfed in the whole culture. Like, listen to as many podcasts as you can. You won't understand half of them. Maybe you'll listen to a podcast and you understand 1 minute of it, but at least it's an extra 1 minute that an extra bit of knowledge you've taken in.
That's a good point. What podcasts do people recommend?
I listen to Shop Talk is my go-to one. It's very front-endy, but that's what I'm into. It's just quite an entertaining one. It's a weekly one. It's done by Chris Coyer.
Chris Coyer, yeah, really good.
The guy
Tricks guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And I've been listening to the Laravel one as well. because of, well, since I met Ed, I've been getting into Laravel. No, I really like Laravel. It's just a really well put together podcast, and it's, even though I don't understand a lot of the stuff they talk about on there, but it's just a really enjoyable podcast.
Yeah, no, I agree. The one I like, and it's kind of off topic slightly, is .NET Rocks.
Yes.
Okay, I know it's not PHP, but a lot of the principles, like I say, the programming principles of, making clean code, not repeating your code, all the good stuff that you want to practice as a developer, as a programmer, you'll pick up in that podcast. Don't get bogged down with the language. Just learn about the principles that they're talking about. And I think those guys do a pretty mean podcast for me.
I think another one I'd recommend, and it's from our friend Philly, PHP Town Hall.
Philly.
Good old Philly, Philly Sturgeon. That's not a bad podcast actually, but I think probably a bit too. I mean, it's just nice to have it on the background.
It's a bit more advanced.
Yeah, it's a bit more advanced, but it may be nicer to have it on, just so you can kind of, if you understand little bits of it and everything.
Yeah.
Another one I listen to is JavaScript Jabber. That's quite good for JavaScript, but again, that's probably a bit too for starting off.
Yeah.
Can I recommend one I listen to?
Go for it.
DCRadionetwork.com. I don't know.
I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah, this guy David Conley. He's basically a real world freelance developer and an eccentric Scottishman. Quite funny, His podcasts are a lot about web stuff and a lot about other things as well. But it's certainly, you never to those shows on there, DCRadionetwork.com, and also when you go down the line of looking at PHP frameworks like CodeIgniter and stuff, he's done a lot of good tutorials as well. Another one I'd recommend.
Yeah, I listened to a couple of his following your advice, and I thought they were really good actually. Especially the one you kind of blew my mind with, that whole HMVC thing, which I don't want to scare the listeners today, but that was a really good tutorial. I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a kind of a normal bloke. He just talks to talks like a human being, not like he doesn't assume prior knowledge with anything. It's more of kind of a radio show that's geared towards web development, but it's an interesting listen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Definitely. One of the other things I was thinking of doing for people, which is a feature of our weekly podcast or monthly, whatever it is anything new, any plugins that people have found in the week that they want to rave about. I know
PHP or anything. Just
I was thinking mainly JavaScript, PHP, but anything really, whatever. I know.
I used one yesterday that was good actually.
Was that your Maps one? That was pretty cool.
No, that was last week.
Oh.
jQuery BX slider, really, really good. It's a responsive image slider, very good.
Awesome. My go-to one is Nevo side. Yeah, Nevo side is my go-to if I ever need a JavaScript slider. That's my go-to and my recommendation.
Awesome. Can you just send a link for that and I'll put it in the show notes?
Let me try and dig one out.
I'm going to give my recommendation. It's not new or anything. It's probably been around for years. I've no idea, but I've just started using it this week. I know Ed's used something similar for years, but because of the way that my company works and the way that we commit code and stuff, I found this really useful. And this basically, it just allows you to echo out PHP to the console.
Okay. Really?
Oh, that's pretty tough.
So, if you need to just echo out a query on a live site, which we should be doing, obviously, but you could wrap that.
Are we giving our listeners bad habits? Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's good.
It's something which I never do, and you can never do.
Yeah, do what I say, not what I do.
But I guess you could wrap that in a if my IP equals this, that kind of thing, and then echo it out. But to have that in your console is so useful, so helpful.
Does that make IE explode like console.log does?
Probably does actually, yeah, because IE7 doesn't like that at all, does it?
No. Oh no, it should be alright actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, because it goes in the headers of the HTML. This one actually should be good because it doesn't actually console log in.
But as soon as you
doesn't like in the headers.
As soon as you console.log in IE7, it just goes crazy. Yeah, there's no.
Yeah, we should maybe explain what console is.
Yes.
Just to the users, it's something that exists in your browser's developer tools or your external developer tools, and it's somewhere that you can see what's going on. So what's going on with the web page. So it'll let you browse the DOM, which is the document object model.
Yeah. Again,
structure of the page and what have you. And there's a console in there as well. So you'll get all your JavaScript errors will come up in the console. And then what we're talking about is console.log, which lets you basically for debugging, or if you're trying to work out where you are in your script at a certain point during dev, you can do console.log and you can say I'm in here, or you can console.log a value to see what a value is at a certain point during execution.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's one thing we haven't mentioned, which, you know, probably wasn't around, or I didn't know about it when I was learning, but web developer tools for browsers are just really, really helpful.
They are lifesavers. Firebug.
Firebug and Firefox is my go-to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, now I actually prefer Chrome developer tools. I loved Firebug, but now I think developer tools is better than Chrome. But and it ships with it, which is quite nice. Whereas Firebug, I think you still have to have it as an add-on, don't you? Or else you can use Firefox's own one, but it's not that great.
Have you guys used Chrome Canary?
No.
Yeah, that's the new browser that they brought out. It's supposed to be a lot quicker than Chrome. I haven't actually used it yet, but I did download it.
Sorry, which browser is this?
Google Chrome Canary.
Okay, I've never heard of that. Because Chrome's using the Blink engine now, isn't it? It's not using WebKit anymore.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I noticed a few people said they thought it had gone slower or something, but...
Yeah, this is supposed to be really fast, this one.
Oh, these are nightly out. Oh, this looks cool.
It's designed for developers and early adopters.
Oh, so it's basically just the early release version of Chrome, like a beta version of the new features of Chrome, I guess, is it?
That is cool.
Canary's design, blah, blah, blah.
I'll get Canary on the line as well, I might check it out.
To aid development and testing. Boom.
Yes, it looks like it's an advanced preview of the stable release of Chrome, maybe.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. It's pretty awesome. So, probably coming towards the end of the podcast, so I guess we should talk about what we're going to be doing in future weeks.
Perfect.
Other than the fact that I've just lost my notes.
Awkward.
Someone fill in the time for me.
Well, should we talk about interesting projects that we're working on at the moment, just to kind of give people an idea of what we do on a day-to-day basis anyway. So
good save. Do it. Who's going first?
I don't mind going first.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'm basically working on a web app, which is the agency that I'm working for. We're developing an iPhone app, and there's going to be a web interface so that people who sign up and download this app can set up their own profiles. Essentially, it's sort of like a social networking thing, like I guess everything is these days. But it basically allows people to log in and they can build up their own profile, and they can move bits around and kind of really style up their own profile in a really kind of bespoke way. And it's just very, very JavaScript heavy. It's been done in jQuery. I wanted to get involved in some of the front end JavaScript frameworks because that's something I really want to get my hands dirty with at the moment. But due to time constraints, we had to go with what we knew, and that was basically jQuery. So there's a lot of jQuery callbacks. It's a really interesting project, but it's becoming quite a behemoth at the moment. So it's keeping me busy.
That sounds awesome, actually.
It's good fun.
Yeah. Lee?
Well, one of the main things I've done recently is I rebuilt my company website. That's now gone live. I'm still tweaking it, but it has gone live now. That's cube-design.co.uk. That's taken up a lot of my time this year. And at the moment, working on sort of 3 or 4 different property websites for properties in London. That's a large part of what my company does is designing brochures and websites for London properties and all that sort of stuff. So I've always got plenty of those going on. They're always good fun to build. So that's mainly what I'm doing. And I'm also in my own time trying to build my own PHP framework as well. We don't know whether I'll actually end up using it, but it's definitely a good exercise for anyone that's learning PHP if they want a practical example to actually try and make their own framework, which is something I suppose you get into a bit further down the line.
Yeah. I'm loving the selfie on the Cube website.
The what? Sorry.
The selfie swimming pool.
What am I working on at the moment? That's a really good question. To be honest, I've just built a standard e-commerce site. Whoa, that is one big thing that I should mention, but it's a bit advanced probably for this week. But one thing that I have come across this week, and I think you guys probably used it before, because I think you've touted it before, but Stripe payment. That is
high five.
Awesome. I used that for first time this week, and it's so easy
to use it. Oh,
yeah.
Jealous.
So
the API looks so freaking good.
Yeah.
Never heard of this thing.
I mean, basically, for anyone out there who's never obviously done any development or never built an e-commerce site, a lot of people will use PayPal. But if you look at the documentation for PayPal, it's like 100 pages long, and in fact, you probably only need about one page.
It's just come to the UK as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's why it's so good.
But basically,
is it essentially PayPal?
It's PayPal for developers.
Yeah,
it's like a developer-friendly one.
It's so simple. You just literally. The only thing I found is that you have to take. I don't know if you have to, but I think the one that I did, we took card details on site. So obviously you'll need a SSL or whatever security certificate thing. But once you do that, you just literally send them the details, and it literally sends you back this nice object with payment details if it went through.
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff, and it gives you a unique ID that you can obviously then pair up with your database entry. Yeah. Really easy to use. I think I had it all set up and running in about an hour, having never read the documentation before in my life. It's just so good, really good. So, but to our listeners, our thousands and thousands of listeners, don't worry about it yet. We'll come on to this stuff later. But it's just
four of you.
All four of you, which is
awesome. Our mums.
But that's definitely a good. If anyone's listening who does know PHP quite well, definitely use Stripe. Check it out; it's really good.
Cool.
So I've now found that email. So I think on the schedule I've got, and this could change by the way, people, but for next week I think the plan was to look at PHP a little bit more and get our hands dirty, to use Fraser's term, and look into the code, get into it, and perhaps we'll go through some basic syntax, look at for loops, if loops, all the kind of essentials for learning PHP. And then week 3, it's quite a step up, so we might have to review this and see if there might be an episode in between or two, but we're going to look at object-oriented programming. And this is the way that I think everyone should be programming now. Yeah. Even beginners, I think, should start with this. So, and then I'm not going to say week numbers anymore because these probably will change, but basically a lot of topics we're going to cover are MVC, which is like what I call a design pattern and a way to structure your code to make it clean and reduce code repetition. JavaScript, we're going to look at that, and libraries that you can use with that. Probably the most popular one, we'll probably pick jQuery. And something that Fraser touched on, which was front-end JavaScript frameworks. So,
and that's my favourite thing in the world at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll probably have a look at Angular Backbone. Perhaps each one of us will take an individual one, have a look at it, have a week to play with one, and come back with some feedback. That would be quite a good idea.
That'd be good, because I've actually never used any of those. So I've only exclusively really used jQuery, to be honest.
I've used Angular a bit, but we'll go through all that. And then
blocks for Angular are horrible, aren't they?
Yeah, really are. Yeah.
Just because I look at the setup and it's like you have to install a testing platform, or you have to use this dependency and this dependency, and it's not just a case of just use this and do this and there you go. But
yeah, absolutely. And the other things I've got on there, we'll look at asset management, asset compression, SAS, less, more front end kind of stuff.
Don't forget, less, definitely less.
Yes.
Oh, you're less over SAS, are you?
No. Less is more, baby. Less is more.
Other topics we'll look at are Git. We'll go through that whole version control thing, but this is way down. We don't want to scare the listeners right now. But by the time,
scare them all.
Yeah, all right.
No, I'm joking.
Testing. We'll have a look at that. PHP unit, which I've been using a little bit recently, which is pretty cool. And also, I think I've put later down the line virtual boxes and Vagrant. and that'll probably be.
Yep,
we'll
I've
probably
started
look at-
using that this week, thanks to Mr. Man himself. Thanks, Ed.
Mr. Man.
No worries, Blair.
It is great. It is really great.
But yeah, like I say, don't be put off by that stuff. Hopefully, by the time you're listening to them, you'll have some experience with PHP, and it won't be so scary. So, I think that is about it. Shall we wrap it up? Has anyone else got anything they want to add? Or
just we're all on Twitter.
Yes,
Everyone
Twitter.
can find us on Twitter.
Yeah, I am Michael Budd 6, but it's Bud with 1D. I don't know why.
Why is that? I never understood. You could have.
I don't know how I did that.
You screwed up your Gmail account with that as well. So I've just given out your Gmail account. Didn't realise that. That's stupid of me.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah, that's great.
Beat that one out.
Yeah.
I'm at Elkane's web dev.
Yeah, I'll put these all in the show notes as well. But Ed, what are you?
I'm at Edman, 2 Ds, 2 Ns. Keeping it cool.
I'm at Fraser Hart Dev, which is FRASER, and then Hart is HART, and then DEV.
Follow us all. We want more followers.
Yeah, we should get a unified Twitter account as well. So
I'm up
we
to
should.
a career high of 42 at the moment.
Someone register Free Devs and a Maybe. If someone can do that, and I'll put it in the show notes.
okay,
This is the race to do it.
Yeah. So
is someone doing that now?
yeah, if that's all right.
No, I was going to say if anyone's already doing it, but otherwise I'd do it.
Yeah, if you could do it, man, that'd be great.
Okay.
So I think that's it for this week. So thanks for listening, and please listen again. This will get better, I'm sure. Cool. See you soon.
Bye.
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 Where's the stop button?